And now, the Lowe Post.
Welcome to the Lowe Post podcast, where we are recording from the depressing remnants of the Jalen and Jacoby set in Los Angeles, which now feels like the abandoned garage of someone who just sold their house. It's really, there's nothing here.
There's a Detroit, like a Detroit Tigers Dairy Queen plastic helmet.
Yeah. I loved those when I was a kid.
Oh, I had the entire set.
Yeah. By the way, it's Kevin Arnovitz sitting across the table from me, a rare in-person appearance on the pod from Kevin Arnovitz since I'm in L.A.
Well, apparently we're San Francisco because I see a box of Allbirds, which is the official shoe of San Francisco, California tech guy.
I'm in L.A. to do the jump. I was supposed to be in L.A. to also go to the award show. My flight from New York was delayed 10 hours. Downside, missed the award show. Upside, wrote a column on the plane. And then it was so late. It was like 11 o'clock Eastern time. I was like, I'm done with my column. You know what? I'm going to watch a movie. I finally watched Black Panther. I feel like I can now discuss. Did you see Black Panther?
No, it's on my summer list of I didn't see anything during the
It was pretty good.
Season. Yeah,
it was good.
Looking forward to it. I saw glimpses on it. You know how you watch the people next to you's movie on a plane? You find yourself just kind of for 10 minutes enthralled. I've done that, and it was enough of a trailer I'm going to do it in short order.
We are gathered here to discuss NBA free agency, which is, I don't know, some amount of hours away. I'm too tired to do math. I don't want to do math. It's 96 hours away. And we do every year at the beginning of the season now, we do the 5 most intriguing teams for the season. I thought we would recycle the concept for free agency. Pick our 5 most intriguing teams with the caveat that the Lakers cannot be allowed.
Right.
Because we are all going to talk endlessly about the Lakers. We all know about the Lakers. The Lakers can't stop talking about the Lakers and how much cap space they have. They held a meeting for don't tamper, all this stuff. We're all going to the Lakers are all up in everyone's business. We know. Okay, so we don't need to talk about the Lakers and LeBron. So I have no idea who you picked. You have no idea who I picked. Let's just get rolling, Kevin. And I did no particular order. I didn't even go 5-1. I actually picked 6. I picked a tie to broaden our horizons a little bit.
And I have several teams, too, sort of. And I kind of divided them by themes, so it's kind of funny.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, you got like a high school paper-style outline going on there. I saw.
No, I'm senile and will remember nothing.
Yeah,
that's actually the entire objective.
Rachel comes on my podcast and mocks all the notes I have and how messy they are. And I'm like, yeah,
Rachel has a mind like a steel trap. Forgets nothing.
Like, I can't remember exactly how much cap room and all this stuff all these teams are going to have. So, KA.
Oh, yeah, God. My wireless has gone dry, so I'm going to have to improvise now.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Do you want to stop and see if you get wireless?
Whatever, we'll figure it out. You'll tell me if I prompt you for this is really for cap space.
Okay.
I've got my notes. I just don't have my little handy-dandy Excel file.
Kevin Arnovitz, give me one of your 5 most intriguing non-Lakers division teams for free agency.
All right, so this is a wonky pick, and it's the Utah Jazz.
They're on my list, too.
Good. There are a lot of different ways they can go. They've got what do they got? 13 million? Am I wrong? They're 12, 13.
Well, one of the reasons they're intriguing is they either have no room or they have lots of room, and it depends what they do with Favors and Exum, who are $33 million worth of cap holds that they would have to renounce.
So the first question is what is the market for Derek Favors? And I don't know that there's a huge one, and that's as function of position and style of play the league prefers these days than it is any great commentary on Derek Favors, who's a perfectly good, serviceable power forward in this league. And so the question, if you're Utah, your free agent targets are sort of in that category. Do you bring them back on a 1-year deal with a team option? Because you don't want to go into, second-year money is going to be a big theme, I think, of this free agency, right? Like, I think there are going to be a lot of guys who aren't the max guys where it's, let's sign you to the 1-year deal with the room we have, but we don't want to compromise the great 2019 procession.
There are, this is the Cuban Zig versus Zag thing, whereas like everybody, it's almost like every team that's not contending for the title next year, and even some that are having so many contracts come off the books next summer that it's like they all can't win. Like there are going to be a lot of losers of free agency next summer among the teams, and the Jazz are one of them. They got $1 million. That like Alec Burks is the big one that comes off.
Well,
the
here's
books.
the question: Do you get off some money this summer instead? Do you deal Alec Burks?
I don't know what. I'm sure they would love to deal Alec Burks if they could get off of Alec Burks, who makes $11.5 million next year without attaching a draft pick. I think they would do cartwheels.
Right.
I wonder if we'll see, like, do you use the stretch provision on Alec Burks if it actually comes down to you need cap room to get a particular player, and do you do that?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm trying to think of a particular player who would require. Well, again, if you depending on what you want to do with Favors and Exum, it's such a funny market. I want to say it's for everybody who thinks it's going to be crazy, and I think in terms of waiting for LeBron and the great spectacle and reality show component of the top free agents, I think it's going to be crazy. I think it's also going to be dreadfully boring, and I think we're already seeing harbingers of that. We haven't seen any money trades other than Dwight. I think
that was sad.
I don't. There are not. I was talking to someone today, and it's like there seems to be a lot of complacency, right? The Warriors and Rockets, a lot of teams totally willing to stay pat. The specter of 2019 is saying teams, let's not do anything because we want to play in these waters. And you're absolutely right. No one thinks they're going to be a loser in free agency a year out, right? Everyone has to. Everyone thinks we're the Brooklyn Nets. We will have 2 max slots, and we are a destination, and we have facilities, and we've turned over a new leaf, and we're on the good list of teams again. Everyone thinks they're a player, but there's just sort of this. I think it's actually going to be relatively quiet once you get out of the crazy shit. Oh, sorry.
No, you can swear. They'll just beep it out. I think they beep. I would like to use more funnier sounds. Like a bleh, or so. Just give me something that's not a beep. Just give me
like a trumpet.
Or give me some NBA themed sound effect.
I'll speak in Yiddish, but
no. Instead of a beep, I'm talking about the tech guys. Give me instead of a beep. Give me like a shot hitting the rim really hard.
One of those little like bicycle horn.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. Just give me let's have fun.
I'm not a great sound effects guy, but so I mean, Utah will have 30 to 50 next year.
It's everybody. I mean, you mentioned the Nets, but it could be the Knicks, it could be the Lakers again, it could be the Clippers. I mean, and these are just the teams that are like the big market teams. At some point, the Bulls will try to spend money again. Sixers,
they're on my list.
Yeah,
I'm teasing. I want to also one thing that's interesting about Utah is they made trades to go up and get Mitchell and Gobert.
They bought Gobert.
Yeah.
Pick. Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of chutzpah. I mean, I think that's we don't give them enough credit at times. And actually, you know what? We give the Jazz a lot of credit.
I believe Dennis Lindsey. Dennis Lindsey, I believe, finished second in Executive of the Year.
Yeah, I saw that.
Behind Daryl Morey. I'm surprised Daryl won.
Why?
There's a lot of Daryl envy around the league.
I know there is.
Daryl envy is not quite the right word. You know what I'm talking about.
One thing about Daryl, though, is you've seen his favorables among his peers go wildly in the positive direction over the last 8 years. He was the barbarian at the gate for a while and was not well liked. And I don't even think personally. I think it was philosophical. And then I think people realize he's self-deprecating. He's kind of a funny guy. He actually doesn't take himself very seriously, even though I think he's a mission-oriented guy, but he's actually can laugh at himself. And I have noticed that sort of the tone on Daryl is actually, I think he's really well respected, and generally people think he's kind of he's funny and he's smart.
I also think now, you know what? Like, you get points for going after the Warriors, and the Warriors are now the villain, and Joe Lacob is the sneering villain of the NBA, the light years ahead guy. And I think people are like, you know what? Daryl went for it. Like, and it's easy to say, like, you have James Harden in his prime. You have to go for it. But, like, not every team is able to pull off that stuff that they pulled off to get CP and all of that. On Utah, don't you find it so interesting that X years later, I mean, how many seasons ago is it when Cantor got hurt and Gobert in the second half of the season emerged as this, like, monster defensive presence? It's like 4 seasons ago. And they still don't seem to know, like, is Favors Gobert the direction we want to go as a franchise? Can we play those guys together for 20 minutes, 25 minutes? Just your token 6-minute stint at the beginning of each half? And if it's just that, how much do you pay for Derek Favors? And then you have the playoffs where it's like, Derek Favors, first of all, he got healthy last year.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the season in the playoffs was, like, absolutely essential to their team. And it feels like they just can't get a final answer to that question, so they're going to keep paying for, like, the delay of answering it. Like, I wonder if their plan is just let's stay over the cap and bring everybody back, because, you know, one of the themes of this offseason has been, there's no cap room. Nobody has cap room. And so guess what? The full mid-level exception, not the baby tax version, the real version.
What is it, 8-7?
It's like almost 9. Yeah, I was going to say 9. That's a really powerful tool. But you know what? There are so many teams that are over the cap, but so close to the tax, if not over it, that they can't even use the big. Well,
Detroit, I think.
Detroit, Charlotte maybe can use it now, but we'll see. Miami, Milwaukee, Portland, Washington, Oklahoma City, Minnesota,
Denver for the time being.
The Clippers, if DJ opts in and stays, which we'll talk about hopefully later, that like if the sweet spot of team that is over the cap and has access to the actual full mid-level is like a very tiny subset of teams, one of which could be Utah.
What's interesting is how many guys on the board are worth the mid-level. A fair number.
Well, I think there are going to be guys who think they're worth way more than the mid-level and then are going to be happy to have been offered the actual mid-level. I mean, I read a piece in The Athletic today about will the Warriors even use their taxpayer mid-level, which is the baby one that's like 5.3, I think. And some of the names The Athletic threw in that story are Will Barton, Trevor Ariza, J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick made $23 million this year, and if the Sixers don't sign anybody, I bet they re-sign him again on a similar deal. Ariza wants 10, 12, 13 a year. Barton turned down the Josh Richardson, Norman Powell 4 for 40 extension. I don't know that all those guys are going to sink to the level of 5.3, but some of them might. And we're talking about like Avery Bradley, Contavious Caldwell-Pope. Like, what are these guys going to get? And are they going to just try to do the 1 year thing again in KCP's case? I mean, there's going to be some guys who slide into that range, and the Jazz potentially using the full mid-level, and they're not even guaranteed to have access to it and avoid the tax. That's a powerful tool. That's going to be a really powerful tool.
Who's yours? Who's your first team?
Well, we can go any number of directions. Are we done with the Jazz? Do we care any more about the Jazz?
No, I mean, I just think, they're interesting questions. Do they play in the free agency market this year? Does it just mean Favors back on a favorable 1 year deal with a team option? They obviously next summer they want to be players.
I think they also, they have all those non-guaranteed deals that we're assuming are gone.
Yeah,
like Cephalosha, Jerebko, Udo kind of deals. I think Utah looks at their team and says, you know what? We're really good. Like, we're good. I think Utah is going to try to win a lot more. Like, they're going to be in why not us? Let's go for it and find a peace mode.
But finding a peace is
hard.
It's hard this summer. Yeah. It's really hard. And I have all the faith in the world, but in that front office, I just, what does finding a peace look like?
Buying tickets, listeners, can be complicated and confusing. It used to drive me crazy when I would have visitors come to New York and I would try to buy them tickets and think, oh my God, have I forgotten this secondary market website? What about that one? And 2 hours later, I still don't have a ticket. SeatGeek has changed all of that. It's the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to any type of live event, a baseball game, an NBA game, a football game, a concert. They even helped me get tickets to Hamilton, which won me some points in the Lowe household. It collates the entire secondary market, or almost all of it, into one place, so it's one-stop shopping, and bam, you've saved like an hour of your life. Every purchase is fully guaranteed, so you can shop with confidence. It's easy to use. It has a nice color-coded system with green dots for good deals and other colored dots for, overpriced deals, and you can easily find where every seat is. And right now, my listeners get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. $20, that's not nothing. Can be a high percentage of like a ticket to a random Mets game or something. All you have to do is download the SeatGeek app. Enter promo code LOWE, L-O-W-E, that's my name. The name of this podcast, promo code LOWE, bam, $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Well, you asked me. Let's start with, you pick between these two teams that are both on my list, and we can go in either direction. The Los Angeles Clippers or the Minnesota Timberwolves. Which one do you want to do?
Let's do the Clips.
Clip Joint. Clip Joint is at the tax, as is right now. DeAndre Jordan, we have to start there, right? He has a $24 million player option for next year. The chatter today, and Mark Stein was the first to tweet this, is that he is planning to opt in.
You think?
I also believe he is. Well, but there was, this was until a week or so ago, there was like, if he has a deal, this is a tell, right? If some team is offering him, because nobody opts out without a deal. Right? Nobody opts out without knowing my floor is this. So if DJ is like, look, what is he, 30?
Yeah.
If he says I'm 30, my athleticism isn't what it used to be, my block rate last year was a career low, blah, blah, blah. Some people with the Clippers, by the way, thought we were better with Harrell in the game than with me.
Yes.
If I can find a team out there that will give me 4 years, 80, so 20 a year, Maybe I locked that in. I don't even think he found that.
No, and this is no disrespect to DeAndre.
No, there is no team.
Who is paying $480 this summer for a one-way big?
So
who's 30 years old?
Here's my question. If he opts in, is he immediately going to be traded? Stein mentioned the Mavericks today, and if he's not, if there is no opt-in and trade like we saw with CP, are the Clippers interesting anymore, or are they is that just their offseason, basically?
I mean, I don't think they're particularly interesting right now, and I also think that they're not terribly troubled by being uninteresting for a summer. I mean, whatever, and again, that's an owner question, is how uninteresting is Steve Ballmer satisfied his team being, but I just think they're a team right now in massive flux. They also have, other than Gallinari and Lowe at $8 million next.
Which was a really interesting extension, and someone I could see them trading very shortly into the life of that deal.
And it's a wonderful deal for anybody.
And and by the way, also a free agent is Montrezl Harrell, who they love.
They love them some active four.
Trez.
So I think, they'll be, I mean, they've got all the room in the world next summer.
Yeah, they got no one on the books next summer.
I mean, again, they're sort of a team that personifies this general I don't want to say complacency, but just sort of, we're standing pat. I mean, what are we doing in the Western Conference right now? Is this the summer we're actually going to take this enormous step? Or do we have two late lottery guys we want to develop? We've got some decent deals amidst our terrible deals. We're not going to embarrass ourselves this year. They have Tobias's Birds if they, for whatever reason, decide this guy is our number 2/3, 2C, 3A option going forward. We get another look at him.
He's also not he's one of the rare veterans for whom an extension makes some sense. Right. At 120% of his current salary. That's not.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, he makes 14.8 this year, so you could extend 120% of that is probably like 18.
16.8.
Is it 16.8? You did the math. Did you just do that in your head right now?
Yeah, 20% of 14 is 280.
Are you secretly really good at math?
No. I mean, that's.
Where did you top out in math?
What do you mean?
In like high school or college?
I didn't even. I mean, I took like pre-calc. That was it. Okay. I didn't do any in college. Okay. I just grew up reading Bill James. That's the extent of my. I could do batting averages and win-loss and like salary cap and that, but I couldn't dissect a triangle.
I got a 3 on the AP calculus exam.
I didn't even take it.
And I mailed in the second half of AP calculus. Mailed it in. Just second half of my senior year, I tanked it. I just tanked it. There was one question on the AP calc exam that I answered with an illustration. I just drew a picture of something. I didn't even try. I just drew like a house. Stepped this above my. The vibe I get from the Clippers is like you. All right, if DJ opts in and we don't find a trade that works, we're cool like being pretty good next year. And then having all this cap space and figuring out what the hell we want to do.
They're part of that whole scrum. What are they going to do? They're going to be they got a chance for the 3 seed this year?
No.
That's my point. So what are you doing?
But because they have this team of like players that are good now that's designed to be competitive now of like DJ and Gallo and Tobias and Pat Beverly.
Beverly's coming back?
And Boban. I'm going to throw in Boban.
He looks great.
Love Boban. But it's also, and on the other hand, they owe this strange pick to Boston that is lottery protected next year, lottery protected the following year, and then converts immediately to a second round pick if it hasn't conveyed. So really, it's an interesting pick because they can tank freely if it comes to that. Like if they trade DJ for Flotsam and Gallo can't play again and someone else gets injured, like it's not hard to see them being really bad. Right. There's a scenario where they get really bad.
Yeah, a guy gets hurt. I mean, let's say so they're capped. What are they in the West? Pretty much like last year, right? 9.
Yeah, they're nice. They're
with the healthy guys. Maybe they have a shot at shouting distance of 7.
Yeah,
Denver's going to be better,
and the West is all going to be better. Like Lakers are a wild card. There goes my text message, Jap. Sorry about that. Lakers are a wild card. Dallas is clearly going to be a little bit better at least. Phoenix is going to try to win games. Denver is going to be good again. Like the West is not going to be, it's going to be tough.
So they'll get their, they'll be right about where they were this year. That's not embarrassing.
Mark Stein mentioned the Mavericks as a DJ possibility, as an opt-in and trade. They don't really have anything that the Clippers especially should want.
I would assume they would see it as doing the Clippers. I mean, they get off the money.
Yeah, I think it would be you just dump DJ into space. And I don't think the Clippers are going to take back a guy like Dwight Powell, whose salary runs. Dwight Powell makes $10 million in 1920.
No, they're not going to take back second-year money.
I think they would just dump him into space, which would be interesting and also a huge L for whoever. As soon as Dallas gets a center, all the other centers on the market are going to panic because that's their team. Like, they've got room and they need a center. And if they get DJ, Boogie Cousins, Clint Capella, Yusuf Nurkic, Julius Randle, all these guys, I got no place to go.
I mean, here's the thing with the Clippers, and I don't think it was a travesty, but I thought they maybe missed some opportunities. I know they wanted more for the guys they had on the block. And I know they have Lowe on a good deal, so they could still get something of value for Lowe if they do decide they want to move off him. And we don't know what the final. I mean, what was the final? What was the best haul they could have gotten for DeAndre? I mean, what was the best thing on the table? I don't think
I'd have to go back and look.
I don't think there was a first.
Yeah, there may have been a really bad first at best, but there also.
Yeah, so I guess it's not a trap.
I don't remember what Cleveland was reported to have maybe possibly been interested in, maybe possibly offering. I don't really remember off the top of my head. I think they feel like they are sneakily well set up for the future with the two guys they just drafted and cap flexibility. But cap flexibility in young guys isn't everything. You've got to give a big-time free agent some appetizing reason to come and some evidence that they can win immediately. And maybe that's just, two of you can come at once. But everyone, as you said, everyone's trying to do that, including the team that shares the building with you.
I always wonder, with Chris and Blake moving on, I mean, what are the Clippers in the popular imagination of the league? What do agents think of the Clippers? What do star players think of the Clippers as a destination? We know they like Los Angeles. Is Doc as popular as he used to be as a destination coach, if you will? I don't know the answer to that question. And, are they a consolation prize if you can't make it work with the Lakers? I don't know the answer to that. The same way we don't know what Brooklyn is going to be. In terms of the kind of the sex appeal rankings of franchises as destinations. Now, every guy has a different criteria. But
it's been interesting to see the Clippers, and you can speak to this even more deeply, but even pretty publicly, doing interviews and going on podcasts, they're almost trying to brand themselves as like a very buttoned up, almost like vaguely thundery organization, but also in Los Angeles. Like we're the team with we got a big analytics staff, and we're going to be very just first class about everything, but also we're in LA, and we're not like a shit show. We're not a circus. We're just we're a regular team in LA.
No, and then they're big on intentionality and a lot of the sort of the cultural buzzwords, and I don't mean that flippantly. I mean, I think it's better than being just a reality show, which is what it was for 3 or 4 years culturally. But it is. They're still kind of groping for identity. They are a team right now without one. And I don't mean that I think it's okay in the life cycle of an organization completely taking a 180 or reinventing itself. There's that moment sort of where it hasn't yet defined itself.
Give me another team on your list.
Indiana.
They're on my list too. I tied with them with the Jazz. I cheated on my small market teams that nobody cares about, but has very fervent fan bases and strange, non-guaranteed contracts that give them wildly different scenarios. So tell me why Indiana.
Well, I mean, they are a team with a little room. They're a team that overachieves, and I think that's always both a good thing and a precarious thing, because then I think there's this sense that you're running fast on the treadmill and you got to keep up. And as much as you want to say, consolidation year, it's tempting to want to kind of push forward. The Thad Young variable right now is unclear.
Really interesting. And if he opts out, so he has a $13.8 million player option.
Yes.
That's good.
He should take it.
He's not going to get that.
No.
If he opts out, I wonder if there is a very quick Pacers re-sign Thaddeus Young, 4 years, $50 million or something like that. Like you lock in maybe a little less than 13.5 a year, but you lock in years because he's of the age where locking in years maybe.
How old is Thad now?
I'm gonna guess he's 29, but I'll look it up right now.
I saw him use his right hand a couple times this season. It's a nice thing.
I'm a big fan. I've always been a big fan. Funky player, and Right. My Wi-Fi isn't working either, no.
He is neither fish nor fowl. Well,
I can't look this up. I would love to look up Thaddeus Young's age, but my Wi-Fi.
Do they play in the wing market where they could use some help? And obviously Will Barton it looks to be a guy that they're interested in. What can you get Will for the mid-level? What is the market for Will Barton? What is the market for Tyreek Evans? In other words, to me it feels like there are the max guys and there's everybody else, all of whom not one of them you can argue is worth a deal with both years above the mid-level. I think there are a lot of, 1 year big money deals, but let's keep 19 money, 20 money off the books. But how many guys after that initial list, that max list, would you say are better than that you would offer a 4-year, $37 million deal to? 4 and 40. Let's say 4 and 40. How many 4 and 40 guys are there on that list?
Not Tyreek Evans. I've never been a big. He was. You know what? Tyreek was.
He was great.
He was great last year.
He was great.
He's just never been my cup of tea. Not my cup of.
He was never my cup
of tea. Is what I'm trying to say. I don't drink tea. Tea's gross. I bet you like tea, don't you? I said that as if it were an accusation. It's okay to like tea.
Tea is league average. I'm a coffee guy.
Yeah, me too. I don't like tea.
I'll drink tea, but
No, I won't even drink tea.
I like iced tea. I'm a Southerner.
That almost doesn't count as tea.
Right. It's kind of just an alternate. It's alt soft drink.
Yeah. What were we talking about? The Pacers.
We were talking. So I was saying, how many guys?
This is a fun challenge to do this without Wi-Fi. I've now transitioned from panic and sweating to the liberation of not having Wi-Fi. So if I make a mistake, there's just no Wi-Fi.
It's we're completely flying on the wings of doubt here.
They've really just disemboweled the J&J. We can't even get Wi-Fi in J&J anymore.
So how many of these guys are 4 and 40? Once you get past the quote, if the guys who aren't max guys, and now they're asterisks by DeMarcus because of health but how many 4 and 40 guys? I mean, you're not giving Contavious Caldwell-Pope 4 and 40, are you? Or would you give Will Barton 4 and 40 if you had it? Would you give?
I like KCP. I like him at that number. I don't like him at near the annual salary he got from the Lakers last year on a 1-year balloon deal. Barton's interesting. He, as you know, is a very divisive player. There are some people who really love him, and there are some people who think he's a little bit of a ball hog who plays so helter-skelter that he's hard to play with.
I think he's a really good guy coming off the bench. I think he's exactly where he is. He is what he is to me.
I could see Indiana offering that kind of deal. And Marcus Smart has been tied to them. Simmons tweeted that the other day, and that's very real. It's funny because you hear that and you're like, well, I'm not sure Marcus Smart is like a great fit next to Victor Oladipo, because he needs the ball. But then you're like, well, you're going to be able to say that about literally any team in the league who has a lead ball handler, and Marcus Smart finds ways to make it work. The Pacers can get to about $20 million in room.
Now, is that assuming Thad opts out?
No, that's with Thad, with Bogdanovich, and with Collison.
That's right. So we got to subtract. I haven't subtracted Lance Stevenson from this.
Yeah, Lance is out. And you mentioned Barton. The other interesting thing is obviously it was the biggest non-surprise in the whole league, to the point that a lot of us have been writing about it for a year and a half now. The Nuggets declining their option on Jokic and maxing him out immediately in restricted free agency. That really complicates Barton's life, because the Nuggets are now like 10 to 12 million over the tax.
They have a huge tax, and I just don't see them being a team that's going to pay hefty tax.
Well, and they can't, they would love to re-sign Barton. They like Barton. They offered him that 4 years, 40. They can't re-sign him and stay under the tax. Maybe even, I think even if they somehow salary dump for Reed and salary dump Darrell Arthur, if they re-sign Barton, they're still in danger of going.
Can we move to Denver just because it's one of my teams?
Yeah, let's move to Denver.
So Denver's interesting to me.
They didn't make my list because I think they're just done now, other than we got a salary dump.
I like talking about Denver because I just think that they sort of embody a couple of the themes that I think.
LeBron should go to Denver. How about that? Go play. Can you imagine the give and go with LeBron and Nikola Jokic
at altitude?
Let's do that.
That would be, honestly.
Doesn't he live at altitude permanently, essentially, with all
his
he's got his chambers and his
Also, the personnel for that team is really great for LeBron.
Mike Malone coached LeBron in Cleveland, was on the Cleveland staff.
Jamal, I love.
Let's make it happen.
That's a great fit.
I'd move to Denver.
It's a good city.
Denver's booming.
It's booming. They may get Amazon.
Good food in Denver.
You know, it's funny. I haven't had the great meal there, but I've gotten a ton of good recommendations, and I need like a 5-game kind of homestand.
I did that this year.
I kind of go in and out. And but
there.
By the way, a favorite for Amazon.
Really?
Yeah, Denver's happening. I'll be there in a few weeks. But they embody some of the questions because so they're going to have to get off some money, and we know they've been shopping for Reed with a pick. They might have to incentivize. Do they get off Wilson Chandler? In other words, to get under that tax payment. Unless Stan Kroenke doesn't care. He just doesn't strike me as an owner who doesn't care about tax payments.
Historically, they have cared very deeply.
Right. I mean, I think at some point they were charging for water in the facility. He's a Walmart guy, right? Like there's not going to be a lot of largesse to write tax payments for 6 seeds or 5 seeds or 7 seeds.
Ooh, my Wi-Fi came back.
Oh, mazel tov. That's awesome. And so I just think Denver is interesting in that how do they get out of the tax, and who do they have to ship out, and what do they have to send with him, and who are these teams kind of waiting around? We know Atlanta, there are a lot of passive teams sort of, who are now in the, hey, we're garbage collecting and
Atlanta and to a lesser extent Chicago
right.
are in the catbird seat of no one has cap space right now. We do. We are not interested in spending it on good players that will help us win right now. So, okay, talk to us. What do you got? What are you going to attach to Kenneth Faried? One first round, one like top whatever protected first round pick. Let's talk again in a couple weeks. They're going to squeeze. So, Thaddeus Young just turned 30, by the way. I knew you were just fixated on how old Thaddeus Young is, so I went back and looked at it.
That Iman Shumpert, that Tech team was really frustrating. I'm a Tech fan, just having grown up. I went to a lot of games as a kid. My dad was like kind of a booster type. We had tickets at Alexander. And that was a really frustrating team because Shumpert just couldn't get the freaking ball to Thad.
Okay. I don't have any memory of that.
No. I mean, there's sort of it was the life of growing up watching ACC or near-do-wells. They were actually really good under Kenny Anderson, and that was my favorite team. Anyway, we're not going to talk Tech basketball.
Final Four, right? They made the Final Four?
Yeah, I remember.
Randolph, no, he's Wake Forest. Randolph
was not. No.
I can't, who else was on the Kenny Anderson Georgia Tech team? Can you name
Joseph, Mark Price was on, Mark Price was an earlier team. Tommy I get the Mark Price, Tommy Hammond, Dwayne Farrell team mixed up with the Kenny Anderson team.
Wow.
Von Joseph.
I loved Kenny Anderson. Kenny Anderson was such a badass.
That was fun.
Oh my God, he was such a badass.
But that's sort of the thing with Denver. There are a lot of teams paying a lot of money. I mean, OKC.
They're on my list.
Huge. All right, so I'll hold off. But they're looking at a huge tax bill. So Denver is sort of interesting in that respect. Not that they're going to be very active because they don't have the room, but what are you willing to part with in order to free up and to get off tax payments? How much are you willing to incentivize?
You want to hear my hunch on Nikola Jokic? This deal that's being reported. So they've
max, right?
In some ways they've done Jokic a favor because by declining his option, which was for the minimum this year, and doing the deal now, they've essentially given him a $25 million raise immediately. They did not have to do that. Now, not doing that would have risked him becoming an unrestricted free agent next summer. And Denver is the kind of market that should be afraid of their guys becoming unrestricted free agents, even though Jokic loves it there. Jokic, if he had his dream, would go play back in a small town in Serbia and make this money. He's fine in Denver. In return, they better have, and I think will get, if not have already agreed to, he has no player option in that deal. It's a full 5-year deal. There's no player option at the end of it. Teams always make that mistake where they just the player gets the option at the end. This happened with Paul George, and it comes back to haunt you. I bet they get the full boat 5 years out of Jokic. That's going to be my hunch.
And that would be sort of the concession on his part for getting the $20 million.
And I don't think it's even a concession. He likes it there. I think he's a pretty down to earth dude this is more money.
Oh, I just like control. I just want to control.
Yeah, I bet they get the full 5 years. Denver. Okay, so anything else on Denver? They got to make the playoffs next year. But barring, again, one of your best players missing 50, 60 games, they got to make the playoffs.
And I'm trying to think who drops out.
Well, San Antonio's the big wild card, right? I mean, we got a big question there, but it could be the kind of thing that if San Antonio drops out, that as a direct result of that, another team like the Lakers perhaps pops into the race. But you're right. Who drops out? I mean, I don't think any of these teams are guaranteed in the West. Like,
No, I agree.
Minnesota was just 12 over. We just talked about the Spurs. It's not a birthright for the Pelicans to make the playoffs, and we don't know what's going to happen with Cousins. It's not a birthright for Portland to make the playoffs, even though they were the 3rd seed last year. I don't think any of these teams are like stone-cold locks to make the playoffs. It's the West. The West is hard. The East is a joke. The West is hard. Anything else on Denver?
No, just that they're sort of an interesting case study in the luxury tax blues.
The luxury tax blues. It's like a James Dolan song. Really bad James Dolan song. Do you want to talk about the Timberwolves? Because we mentioned them earlier.
Sure.
They made my list.
They weren't on my list, but always interesting.
Let me bring up their salaries.
Yeah, I'm doing that too.
So the Wolves next year are one of these teams that will not have access to the mid-level exception because they have so much money on their books, including what is a disastrous Gorgie Dieng contract that runs through 2021 somehow.
So in length, it's bad. Because I still believe in Gorgie Dieng. Like, I think he's actually, for today's game, I actually think he's a useful player.
Yeah, but even for a Gorgie believer,
16 going into the big free.
He's a third big. He's a third big on a good. You think he's a second big? You're making a rabbit ears too.
Yeah, I'm making it too.
Wow, you're the biggest Gorgie Dieng fan other than Tom.
No,
Thibodeau.
I just this is where I actually agree with Tibbs.
Gorgie, ice.
I just think he kind of does what the modern big needs to do. The length of the contract is not great. I mean, you'd like to be, again, 2nd and 3rd year money is not what you want.
Bigger picture.
Okay, yeah, let's stop talking about Gorgie.
Bigger picture.
Yes.
Jimmy Butler. This is the last year of Jimmy Butler's contract. There were some dreams of finding a way to extend Jimmy Butler now, of getting so far under the cap that they could offer Jimmy Butler an extension up to his max now. They have to get like $10 million under the cap. That seems preposterously unlikely unless they somehow salary dump Andrew Wiggins, who is not a player that you salary dump. So, however, Jimmy Butler will be a free agent in the summer, and he will make a maximum contract of $30 million. Karl Anthony Towns will be a free agent next summer and sign a new contract for 2019-2020. If he makes All-NBA again, he will be eligible for a supermax starting at $30 million. Andrew Wiggins earns $27.3 million in 2019-2020. Jeff Teague has a $19 million player option that you would probably but the bottom line is the math is getting ugly.
Very ugly very quickly.
And this is why and the math is getting ugly, and the endless noise about there's nothing like that's on its face. This guy hates that guy, and that guy hates that guy. Like, that's not what it is. It's not like there's some intractable conflict. It's just a general, just like,
It's the cocktail.
It's just a general, like, well, the Tibbs doesn't have great relationships with these guys, and this part of the organization doesn't like the basketball part of the organization.
It's sort of a generational chasm. And,
It's just like, it just makes you feel like there's going to be an unexpected shoe to drop in the next 18 months, and the shoe is going to be Wiggins. And maybe it doesn't happen this summer, maybe it doesn't even happen next trade deadline. It just feels like he's, for some reason, that he's not long for that franchise. And that's not a report. It's not sources. That's just like, you just do math and you watch the team play.
They are a restless franchise, so let's say they're going to do something. Okay, so now you start looking at the something options.
Right. It's not Cat. Probably not Butler as long as Tibbs is there.
You know, Teague will opt in, but I don't even think it's a crucial. That is the thing they have to do, right? So one of these guys departing is the option. Wiggins, 27-2, and then 29. God, he's got a lot of years.
And I've been a relative Andrew Wiggins optimist, and I say that my optimism took a hit last season. He was not good last season. He was just not good last season. He was like okay. And he plateaued in every way that you would not want him to plateau. Part of that was he's now clearly the third option on his own team, and on some nights the fourth option when Jeff Teague is feeling a little frisky.
And when he doesn't have the ball, he's not terribly useful.
Right. But the dude can do stuff that's interesting. He will and should be a good two-way player.
Well, so here
on the wing, whichever one needs.
Right. So all these teams with cap space next summer, many of them, if not the majority of them, are going to strike out. They're going to have a ton of space.
Maybe that's when it happens.
And you know what? 2019, Minnesota can move off that salary, trade him into space for one of these teams left without a chair when the music stops. And they get, a guy for, 3 years, obviously probably a little overpaid, but can go out and get you buckets. And a lot of teams like the guy who can go out and get you buckets.
And by the way, for the ornery Minnesota fans that are going to listen to this, there's 100% a universe in which everything turns in the right direction next year, and all these guys live happily together, and they win way more games than we expect, and the pieces suddenly lock into place, and everything's fine.
Yeah, Towns has growth.
There's a completely plausible universe where that happens. By the way, I always like to look through everyone's cap sheets once the draft is over, because you forget that there are these under the radar free agents. Like Jamal Crawford declined his player option. Well, everyone perks up for that because he's Jamal Crawford. He is like the annual or semi-annual sixth man of the year. 100% the Warriors and he will talk at 12:01 about maybe a minimum deal. He'll go somewhere and it'll be interesting. Nemanja Bjelica is a restricted free agent.
I knew you were going to say Bjelica.
He's not bad, man. He's not bad.
I don't think so either.
We just got done with the Pacers. I forgot to mention, Glenn Robinson III is a free agent this summer, and a lot of the smart teams ask about Glenn Robinson III. Hey, do you think he can play? What do you think we can get him for? You just forget. There's so many free agents. Bjelica is good, and he has a skill set at the four that they don't have, that Minnesota doesn't have. They will miss him if he's not on the team next year, and they can't find a way to replace his shooting. I just think something's going to drop there. And speaking of which, another team that you mentioned and is on my list, I'm not sure if they're on yours, is Oklahoma City. Were they on your list of 5?
Yeah. On my list of 6 or 7 because I knew we'd have some redundancies.
Now, they're interesting for obvious reasons, right?
Right.
The low-hanging fruit is that Paul George has a big decision to make. Many of the most plugged-in reporters have reported in the last week that there's chatter, that he might actually seriously consider staying more than we anticipated. I've heard similar chatter.
It was described to me as rational optimism. Rational optimism.
Well, okay.
I don't know what the hell that means.
Similar chatter.
Rational optimism.
And I don't quite know what to make of it, although in this case I do feel like it's reasonable chatter and not crazy chatter. There's been noise about him signing a 1+1,
yes,
which doesn't quite, unless I'm missing something and it's possible, it doesn't quite calculate for me because that only takes him, next year will be his 9th year of service and you need to get to 10.
And to get the max.
Before you get your super duper max. I just think they're interesting because every scenario raises just giant questions. If Paul George leaves, what in the hell is the future of this team? Right? Because then you have Westbrook and Adams who will be making almost $70 million combined in a couple of seasons. And very little that you can look at around them and think, well, that's someone that I'm super optimistic about going forward. And if he stays, their payroll next year with tax is going to be almost $250 billion.
I mean,
it's like $240 million. And I'm sorry, I know that all of these teams make a big show this time of year. Like, oh, it's only 1 year. We've talked with our owner. Like, we knew all along when we got these guys together, like, we would have to bite the bullet maybe for 1 year. That is not biting the bullet. That's $250 million. I just find it hard to believe that they are. Look, if he resigns there, PG resigns there, huge celebration. Paul George is awesome. He's a borderline top 10 player. I am president of the Paul George is a Boss fan club. Totally celebrate in the streets of Oklahoma City. I just find it hard to believe that they're going to pay $240 million next year to field a team. On its face, it's hard to believe.
So to that point, who do they dump?
I don't see a scenario other than somehow find a way to buy out Carmelo Anthony.
Stretch?
I just don't know what it would be because Adams is probably a little overpaid at 24, 25, and 28, but maybe just a little. Like, I think Adams is really good.
Yeah. So if Carmelo, you get down, and I know we don't want to go into granular details, but you 9-3 times 3, so you'd cut 16, which multiplies times how many?
I believe there's something like 30 over the tax. So if you cut him by 16, that cuts your
18. Cut him by 18. I'm sorry.
That cuts your over the tax by half or more. Let me just see. Here we are. Let's see where I have them. Come on, computer. Let's go. Yeah, they're about 30 million over. It just seems untenable to me. But But if he leaves, you just wonder if that puts every option on the table. If it just puts, like,
Russ?
do we start sniffing around what we can get for Russ on the table and just go full on, hey, look, at some point you got to do it. It's the life cycle of every franchise. And I don't think they're ready to go there. And, you know, you're talking about a guy who won MVP 2 years ago and is a perennial top 5 MVP candidate. But if Paul George leaves, you look at that cap sheet and you look at the future of that team. They didn't have a first-round pick in this past draft, I don't think, or did they end up getting one in the end?
I forget. I don't think so. Am I wrong?
I mean, I know that they had traded. There's a way.
I was having so much fun watching the Jump Draft show.
Did you like it?
Yes, but you know, you weren't always. You didn't get the da-da-da-da-da, you know, kind of. This is the pick with Adam up
they
there.
have first
You know, so picks would go by. You guys were having a great conversation. So I wasn't as like I can't recite the first round the way I normally can just by virtue of watching.
It had my all-time favorite / worst television moment, which was so I'm brought on that show to talk about big picture NBA franchise stuff. Everyone knows I don't know these college players below the top 6 or 7 guys, and even if them. And I went over with Rachel. I was like, just remember, you can't ask me what do I think of the 20th pick. That's what Fran Fraschilla is there for, and Jay Will. And the Wizards picked Troy Brown, who I believe was a wide receiver for the New England Patriots when they won the first Super Bowl of the Belichick-Brady era. And by the way, those shows are hard. I'd never done one of those before, where it's like a live show talking about a live event that's unfolding. That's actually quite hard. And Rachel, the pick comes in, she's like, I'm getting word the Wizards have made this pick, and she just turns to me, I think just out of reflex, because I was sitting next to her, said, hey, Zach, how do you think Troy Brown fits in? Do you have any insight for us on how do you think Troy Brown fits in with the Wizards? And I literally said on television, no. I've never seen that dude play.
I was on KMBR in San Francisco right the day before they're out there. All right, who do you got for the Warriors? And I said, I literally have no idea.
Jacob Evans.
I said, I could not name...
That's who they picked, right? I didn't make that up.
I think prospect below 14 or 15.
Jacob Evans, a shooting guard from Cincinnati, according to SportingNews.com. We were talking about the Thunder, who did not have a first-round pick.
Right.
I just don't know what that team is if Paul George leaves. I mean, what they were with Paul George was they lost in the first round.
They're a team paying an enormous tax bill with no prospects for much success.
It's a little depressing.
Yeah.
That's why I think they're interesting, because every PG related scenario creates very fraught questions for their franchise. Who else is on your list?
Oh, let me get back to my list.
I like the way this conversation is going. There are a lot of teams. There are just a lot of teams with a lot of really interesting questions. It could be the kind of thing you're talking about where it feels like after the 3 big names, it's not that interesting, but it's still like watching all of these franchises we're talking about navigate the next 12 months is going to be fun.
I want to give a lot of praise to a franchise that's taken a lot of abuse in the last few years from a management standpoint. That's the Chicago Bulls.
I'm so excited that the Bulls are on your list.
You know, they've taken, and I've been part of the peanut gallery on them, and you know what? They're doing everything right. They're doing everything right. I mean, look, the Felicio...
Are they doing everything right?
I don't say everything right, but they've been disciplined, which I have a ton of respect for at a moment when, I mean, they're willing to lose in that market for a while as they rebuild. I mean, I didn't like the Felicio deal, but other than that... I mean,
yeah, Rondo, Wade, like, they've had some ugliness.
But I'm saying in the last year, they've recovered. This is not a Lifetime Achievement Award. This is, as they have cleaned up their act and have become, I think, a really... they're doing it intelligently, and that's what I mean. I mean, I'm not... so, looking at them, they have got just a ton of space, some really interesting young players, and obviously they're going to have a decision to make on Zach LaVine, who... I mean, what's the offer to Zach?
I've never heard him referred to as Zach LaVine.
Oh, did I say LaVine? I know a Zach LaVine. I grew up with not fewer than 3 Zach LaVines in every Jewish youth group I was in.
I don't know what the offer. Well, I mean, we haven't even talked about restricted free agency much. But all of these guys are going to find a market that is a little cool.
Right, like we need to talk about the Aaron Gordons, the Zach LaVines,
Jabari,
which that's on my list.
Smart. On and on.
So, what's the offer to Zach? Is it $4.75?
I'm not going there. I mean, if I'm the Bulls, I feel like I got them by the proverbial you-know-whats. And, I mean, Zach LaVine is one of these players. You know, parts of the last 2 seasons have been lost to injury, including most of the last one. Most of his Bulls career has been lost to injury. He does some, like, I think he's underrated as a three-point shooter. He makes very difficult threes at a high rate. He can shoot them off the dribble. Off the ball, he is a very dangerous player.
Should be a better defender.
Yeah,
we don't know why.
His feel and IQ are just so bad, particularly on defense, that it's unclear if he's more empty calories than impactful when it really comes to, like, is he helping your team win games? So I'm not going, I mean, you're talking about 20 a year. I'm not going 20 a year on him. I'm playing hardball. I don't, because you know what? I don't think he's taking his qualifying offer. His qualifying offer is $4.3 million. That's a relatively
Let's say you get him for 16.
QO.
Let's say it's 464, which might be still high for you. But let's just say, and then it starts at 14.5, 15.5. They would still have in 2019.
They got nothing on the books.
Nothing.
I mean, and they can their biggest contract on the books for that year is Ashik, who they can stretch out and is
right.
well. No, it's
not even all
I take
guaranteed.
it back. It's not the biggest because only 4 of the 12 million is guaranteed.
It's Felicio,
or 3 of the 12 million is guaranteed, or something.
at 8.1.
Yeah, Felicio.
But they've got. I mean, look. Obviously, Dunn isn't a sure thing yet. Far from it. But I still like him.
That's where you mentioned the Bulls have done everything right. Dunn playing pretty well. For large portions of last year, finally ended their we are going to experiment and somehow seek out every terrible point guard in the NBA. They had all of them at the same time. MCW, Jerian Grant, Campaign. They just kept giving up stuff to get Campaign. You want Taj Gibson? What else can we give you? A second-round pick. Doug McDermott. What else can we throw in there?
I still believe in Dunn a bit. I
like Dunn. I thought Dunn is going to
really good defender.
One hell of a defensive player.
God, he's a really good defender. And if he can, look, you can tread water from 3. He's not a terrible defender.
He got a little bit over eager with the pull-up jumper last year, but you don't mind that on a bad team that's like, and particularly with LaVine hurt. Let's see what you can do.
But I just think they've kind of paved the way. There's nothing on the books, and and here's the thing. I mean, the elephant in the room is Anthony Davis.
Wow.
And I just think that, like,
whoa,
they've created a ton of space. If AD doesn't stay in New Orleans, where does he go?
If Anthony Davis ends up in Chicago, I will always remember this moment as literally the first time I have contemplated Anthony Davis going to Chicago.
Why not?
Well,
I mean, I don't put too much credence. I don't want to put too much credence in it's the hometown thing. They're gonna have a ton of space. They can get him and someone else and like another guy at 15.
Only if they renounce their rights to Campaign, which I don't know. I don't know if you can do that.
It's just something I think about.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Bulls because every year, once the free agency dust settles in mid-July, I always pick a couple of teams that, like, I want to write what happened here?
Yeah.
And where are they going? And the Bulls are, like, already preemptively on that list because they're either going to look like a sleeping giant with all these interesting young players. We haven't even mentioned Markkanen. They just drafted Carter, who everyone loves. And they're going to stink another year or be bad enough another year to get another good pick. They're either going to be a sleeping giant or we're going to watch all of these guys play another year and think,
oh, they're the Orlando Magic?
Maybe, yeah, something like that. Like, they're all okay. Like, they're all pretty good. There's not a straw that stirs the drink. Where are they going to get the guy or anything close to the guy? And to your point, like, they were the first team, I think, that said, literally a year before the cap spike happened, you would talk to their people and they'd say, we're not spending money. Like, we are not spending money in this offseason on long-term contracts. We're not going to. Now, they ended up signing Wade to a short-term contract, but, like, we're not an Evan Turner team. We're not a pick-a-guy team. We're sitting out. And that there was pain in that because even the most rational franchises, we could get that guy. Like in the moment, you're like, we could get that guy for that much. Okay, I like that guy. I've always liked that guy. I talked myself into it. Their discipline has been rewarded. They were smart. They were the team that was absolutely most on the ball, looking at that spike in those contracts and saying, the idea that none of them are going to be bad contracts because the cap is going to keep going up is bogus, and we're not going to want any part of them. And they were right. And they're like I said, we'll see what happens in the next draft in this July, but they're going to be a really interesting team for the next 2 years.
I do too. I think, and they're going to have there's going to be a summer in the future that they're going to be they will again be a power.
And they've never been a big free agent team, right? Which is like, Pau Gasol is their big free agent. I guess Boozer and Pau Gasol are the big free agents of the last decade. But they're a big market, and when they're good, that place is rocking.
They're a legacy they're a 10-pole franchise.
Yeah. I'm really glad you brought them up. Is there one team you want to do a quick one on?
I don't know. You want to talk like non-teams, like Jabari? Sure. Let's talk Jabari.
Sure, talk Jabari. Talk to me.
All right. What are the it's the same question as we had with Levine. Levine.
Artie Levine.
I'm a professional commentator on this stuff, and I still can't get his name.
His qualifying offer is also only $4.3 million.
Yep. So,
whew.
And by the way,
that's not right. His qualifying offer is going to be higher than that. I think
he was the 3.
That's an outdated number.
Yeah,
that's an outdated number.
I might be able to find where it is. But okay, does he even fit there? Is he a Mike Budenholzer, Bucks of the future? How much of your cap, and you need to kind of maintain a little flexibility there. I just think that
it's fun. Yeah,
the Bucks they're going to have to do some finesse. There's some gymnastics coming. Middleton comes off.
They want Middleton,
and they want him. So
they would love to extend Chris Middleton, and Chris Middleton is going to say no, thank you.
Right. So, what do you do with Jabari? And do you sign him to a good deal and deal him? They're in a really difficult spot. You don't lose a guy like that for nothing. Do other teams even traffic in those waters, given the uncertainty?
It's funny, these things happen. Coaching changes happen during the playoffs, and you just kind of I just don't have time. Happened. I haven't internalized in my brain that Bud is now the coach of the Bucks. And boy, Jabari is not a Bud player at all. Doesn't pass.
By the way, I don't know that Bledsoe is either.
Doesn't play defense. But has shown, in the second half of that Celtics series, that when he actually decides to try on defense, he can hold his own. He just is Jabari's a strange player. He turned down, I think, 3 years, 54, or vaguely around there. I don't think that was ever firmly offered, but it was clearly intimated that it would be among the parameters anyway. Didn't want that. I know the Bucks have been intermittently worried that he will actually take his qualifying offer, which would be crazy for a guy who's torn his ACL twice to turn down a decent offer and take that.
I just can't even imagine doing that with his history.
But I will say this, as down as I sound on Jabari, and I don't think he's played a particularly high IQ brand of basketball. I think he's a little bit difficult to play with, just stylistically. Not a great passer. And positionally overlaps with whatever Giannis is. Positionally they are similar.
And by the way, how does Giannis feel about his style?
They're probably both 4s.
Right.
If they're as close, whatever Giannis is, he's as close to a 0.4 as there is. I don't buy that I'm ready. There are a lot of people who are ready to put to bed the idea that they can play together, that they don't fit. I just don't buy that because they're both so dynamic with the ball. Jabari's shooting, which improved 2 seasons ago and has been sustainable, makes him able to play off the ball and attack off the catch and all that stuff. I don't buy that there's something inherent there that they can't play.
No, and I agree with you. The question is how much do you invest in that lack of certainty?
I want to say
when you want to have Middleton, who's going to need a new deal next summer. By the way, they have no point guard signed after this year. They have Bledsoe and then they have Brogdon. Don't forget, it was a second rounder. So they're going to have to basically go out. Who's going to be the point guard on the Giannis or bust Bucks?
It's easy to say, well, Giannis is the point guard. But you need someone to defend point guards and do some of the ball handling, just like LeBron has needed that kind of player.
Snell is not a terrible deal, but he's on the books through 2021. Henson, you've got yet another year after this year.
Snell needs
at 9-7
his own head and play.
Yeah, actually, I think Bud can make use of Tony Snell. So the point is, you got Dellavedova in the summer of 19. They actually have a fair. They're going to be strapped in the summer of 19 and the summer of 20.
This is a big year for them because
That's the thing.
Bledsoe's expiring, Middleton is essentially expiring, and
And Brogdon doesn't have a deal.
They don't have a lot of flexibility to replace them if things go badly.
So they're an interesting. I don't know what they can do about it this summer, other than they're going to have to make a really difficult call on Jabari. But they're a team that I get excited about. I'm excited about Bud being there. Obviously, Giannis, just watching that growth. It's fun. I'm going to watch a ton of their games this season. And, oh, by the way, they're going to have to start performing some contortions. And do some creative things to get themselves in a position where they can, get better.
The only team on my list that we didn't talk about is the Suns. Did we have a team on your list that we didn't talk about?
Not really.
We don't know. Suns are going to be interesting to me because they're going to that as much as they now have an even more teenage team than they had a week ago with 3 guys in the top 31 that they drafted. They want to win more games next year. They want to show meaningful improvement. They want to show Devin Booker we're trending toward the playoffs, which means they're going to try and get veterans one way or the other.
It's at that moment where a front office feels like it needs to start winning too.
Well, and then trading your 2021 Heat pick is a tell that, we got to start winning a little bit more.
All right, so what does that look like?
Well, to me, the most obvious acquisition on the entire board of things that are going to happen in July is that Phoenix will acquire a veteran point guard somehow. Because I don't think they believe Elfrid Payton is the answer. Tyler Ulis is not the answer. The French kid,
depends what the question is.
It depends what. That's true. He did at least cut his hair. Payton cut his hair, which will help his shooting, I think. The kid they drafted at 31, people think is good, but he's a rookie. And there's been noise, like, I do think they publicly said this, we'll try Brandon Knight at point guard next year. Okay, I'll tell you how that's going to go. Not well. Like, it's just Brandon Knight's not point guard. It's not going to go well. So to me, the most obvious move on the board is them getting a point guard, and maybe it's, I pitched last week, would you do Jeremy Lin as your sort of veteran stopgap if you get good news about his health?
The medical,
for Bender and Jared Dudley as salary filler. I think that's the kind of trade you're looking at.
I mean, where are you on Bender? I don't have a huge opinion. I don't feel like I watched him enough to really know.
I'm still intrigued.
Yeah, likewise. I'm that's not a negative assessment. I want to see more Dragan Bender.
The problem with Phoenix is that, look, I even tried to build deals where, like, what if Toronto just bails out of this? Can we get Kyle Lowry there? Can we get Kemba Walker there? The problem with them is they have their young assets are either, to them, I think, essential to what they're doing, and that's the guys they just drafted, Booker and who am I forgetting? Josh Jackson, or just don't have trade value, which is Bender and Chris. And so it's hard to get to me, Jackson is the interesting swing piece. Like, would they ever, having just drafted another wing at 10 in Bridges, would they ever make Jackson available to get a guy as good as somebody like Kemba Walker? If not him, then you've got to start talking about do we dip into our stash of future picks and how heavily do we protect them? Because Chris or Bender is not getting you a Kemba Walker level talent. Might get you Dennis Schroeder because Travis Schlenk would do a backflip if he could get off Dennis Schroeder without attaching a draft pick to him. But so they're the only team we didn't hit. That's it.
It's a fun, it's a fun off season. But again, it's just there's so many interesting themes. I mean, we're kind of seeing 2016 come home to roost.
No, that's the theme of this. That's the theme of the summer. Do you care about the World Cup?
Yeah, you know what? First of all, living in Los Angeles, being an early riser, it's been fantastic. So I watched the first Iran match at a great Iranian cafe at 7 in the morning on Santa Monica Boulevard in Westwood, which was a blast. And they won an extra time. That was blast. Then I went to my favorite Argentinian cafe in the city of Los Angeles, actually in the city of Culver City. Grand Casino, which has always been a fun place to watch Argentine soccer. Oh, everybody was out there. It was 11 a.m. It was fantastic on a Tuesday. They got their butts whooped to Croatia.
That's right.
And then my friend Sasha and I went first thing 7 a.m. on Saturday morning to this plaza in Koreatown where there were basically 2,500 people on a huge lawn. Radio Korea puts up this enormous screen, and it was the Korea-Mexico match, which is like the L.A. Bowl. Right? And it was fantastic. I mean, there are...
Tie? That was a tie, right?
Huh?
Was that
No. Mexico won.
Mexico won.
2-1, I think. And so it was about 80-20 in terms of fan bases. Everyone was just having a great time. And there were these, McDonald's had like their free coffee, McCafe promotion. People were lined up. People were like brought picnic breakfasts, and it was just kind of wonderful for a city that I think people assume doesn't have a lot of communal life, like Los Angeles. It was just a really fun experience. And I have not been to my the oldest German bar, which is near my house in Los Angeles, for a Germany match, but I might do that for the round of 16. So I'm not so much into the soccer,
right?
But I love. I just, this is my favorite thing about living in a city like this is. By the way, there's a Swedish place on Melrose that like I gotta like. It's just a fun way, especially in the morning, and then you go around. You know, it was a 7 a.m. match. Like you're out of there by 9, and you go on your day.
You can have a day. You know. I don't know anything about soccer. Okay, I don't know anything about the World Cup. Let me just preface my World Cup hot take with this could be completely misinformed. I have no idea. So Croatia just won their group.
Yeah, they look really good.
Whipped everyone. Okay, 3-0. I think their goal differential is +6. You could argue they've been the best team in the whole tournament. So the way this works apparently is that now you go into the knockout phase, which 16 is that right? 16 teams make it. So who you play. Like Croatia's in Group C or whatever.
So would they get their C1? They play what, D2?
That's stupid. Why is that a thing? Croatia should get to play the worst remaining team in the World Cup. Why is it geographic, or is Russia so big that we can't? But they do it this way every time, no matter where it is. Croatia or whoever should get. You know
what they should do? Pick your opponent.
Well, this is what I was about to say.
Opponent.
So this is now.
They're not a very like. I mean, I don't get the sense that soccer's open to a lot of like.
So you could fall one of two ways on this. This has made me more. I've always been on the side of the NBA should reward the number 1 seed as much as possible. I don't think they'll ever will get like they're a bit.
If you're going to play 82 stinking games, which is dumb, at least reward the
So you can't give them a bye because that idea is too out of the box. But I think they should be able to pick their team. It's been proposed. Some teams have pitched informally the idea of like, can we set the playoffs up so that 1 and 2 even get byes? Let's just pretend that's too.
That used to be the case when I was a kid.
Okay, I think you should get to pick your opponent. I think you should get to pick your opponent for every round. Because if you're the number 1, so the flip side of that is, but don't we kind of want the drama of like, oh, the Rockets played all year for the number 1 seed, but the Spurs just got Kawhi Leonard back and they're like the friskiest number 8 seed of all time, and we get this great early round series. So I can't decide like what's qualitatively better, but I err on the side of like the number 1 seed. So Croatia should get to play whoever the crappiest team left is, and it's not. I think we're playing Denmark. It's not them. Denmark's good. I don't want any part. I don't know the name of one player on their team, but I don't want any part of Denmark in the round of 16.
No part of Denmark.
No part of Denmark.
The last team, any last person who went any time part of Denmark was like was Germany, like in the late 19th century.
Yeah, I don't want any part of Denmark. I want like I don't know some crappy team.
I don't know who the worst of the 16 is. I'm just upset the Icelanders lost. I just like the notion of a team like that's small, a country smaller than the San Fernando Valley, like had a team in the World Cup.
I think the number 1 seed in the NBA should get to pick its opponent.
I agree with you.
Every single.
Also, I like then the optics are fun, right? Like the 8th seed is particularly feisty because they were chosen.
What's the downside of that idea?
Nothing.
Is there a sort of scheduling or geographic inconvenience downside?
I mean, we've seen crazy first-round series.
Yeah, I don't understand why.
I took 4 flights between Los Angeles and Memphis in 7 days once.
Oof. All right. Well, we have just a few more days left, and not only that, June 29th, earlier than July 1st, obviously, is the LeBron, DJ, and probably other people that we're forgetting player option deadline. Kevin Arnovitz, it's always wonderful to have you on. It's great to see you in person. We'll be
on the jump together.
Well, we're going to be on TV for 2 days.
I've never been on the jump with you. This is the first.
Or have I been on with you as a I think that's a transitive property animation or something like that.
This will be fun.
It'll be fun. Maybe we'll embarrass Rachel somehow. All right, Kevin. Thank you, sir.